DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby! Yeah. Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. This is the DJNTV Halloween show where we're getting in talking about the gear to get you ready for Halloween. Tonight, my guest, Ben Stowe, is not available, so I've asked Darth Vader to come in and fill in for Ben Stowe tonight. Darth Vader, how are you doing?
What?
We may have a bad connection. We must have a bad connection. Well, we're going to be going through a... And what? The microphone. My microphone must not be on. And, you know, I was really...
Your lack of faith disturbing.
I was really hoping that tonight, that this could be our best show ever, that we would be able to reach thousands of new people, and it would be something that would make us like almost stars in the DJ industry.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
Oh, I see. Well, you know, we can always strive for something great, and we might be able to achieve still a good show, and maybe be able to take over the whole Tuesday night thing, even from Brian Red. That would be pretty cool.
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
Okay, well, we'll move on from our Darth Vader sequence here.
I'm your father.
People are like, what are these guys doing? Isn't this supposed to be a DJ show where we talk about gear? Thank you for joining us tonight out there in the internet world. You are on with Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. We're going to be talking about Halloween things to basically get now to be ready for your Halloween dances, or if you're going to do some decorating at your house or somewhere within your community. We're going to be digging into that tonight. I think we've gotten most of them, I think. What? Where are we at? Darth Stowe. We got a nice crowd joining us this evening from all the different channels and such. So I want to share the YouTube.
Sorry about that. There was a
mix-up. Yes, you were just you had a fill in there.
There was a intruder. Mm-hmm. I have dealt with him appropriately.
Yeah, now we are ready.
Stay over there where I put you.
Nice. No, that's not a nerdy man cave whatsoever you're looking at there, ladies and gentlemen. Just no.
Well, I just killed 5 minutes of the show. What are we up to now?
Oh, well, we're just about ready for the close.
All right.
These are our new streamlined shows. So my task for Ben today was I wanted him to go through and kind of get some ideas for getting ready for the Halloween season. Some lights that could be used, some gear that could be used to create an atmosphere, whether that's at your dances or going to be maybe a little haunted house. You're going to do something that would basically kind of freak out your kids. There's nothing like, there's nothing better than to, scare the bejesus out of your kids just before they go to bed at night, Halloween night.
Part of every healthy childhood.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I don't want to go in that room. That's good. That's where Dad keeps his stuff.
I think kids are more sophisticated these days. I don't know. It's just like horror movies and stuff we used to watch as kids, they're like comedies now.
Yeah, that is. And what's really kind of weird or bad, I guess, is that my kids find more joy in trying to scare Dad. And he's like, Wasn't it like we would maybe scare Mom, and then Dad was like, off limits when we were kids, and now here they are trying to see if they could, like, hey, look, bloody stump, woo! No.
It kind of goes in line with pranks, and my son wasn't that old, and I played a couple good pranks on him, and I figured out pretty quick he returned the favor, and so I thought, we should be careful of the pranks that we play on our kids because they're gonna do them back to us. But then I told my son, I said, but at the same time, you should be careful because I have not taught you everything I know. So it became a bit of an arms race for a while.
I would imagine so. And he's feisty enough where he's a gamer. He would be into that.
Yeah, he would. Now my youngest daughter would probably take it too far. No. He enjoys he enjoys just the arms race of the pranks. She would just turn it into a nuclear conflict immediately. So I have not pranked her.
There would be dead things all around the house.
Yeah.
Medicine cabinet.
Probably
Brush
me.
my teeth. Why is there a dead rodent in my cabinet? You think that's bad, Dad? Wait till you see what else I found there for you.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
So let's dive into it. What kind of gear, what kind of things, if people want to create an atmosphere?
Well, here's one of the cool things about this is basically the same philosophy that we take into event lighting is what we can take into these haunted, we'll call them haunted attractions or
Sure.
What sort of thing. And my youngest daughter, the arms race one, she actually does want to do something for Halloween. She wants to decorate the house and whatnot. So it's kind of interesting when you start thinking about what you have and what you can do and what's practical. And of course, I also have to think about the fact that the day after Halloween, I'm off doing tour sounds. So, what are we going to do with all this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Has to be torn down and dealt with. But I tried to nail it down to like 5 categories. And then I've got some gear within each category. Sort of the number one Halloween staple seems to be fog.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have Halloween without fog. And it's become almost cliche, if not passe. So I thought, or some kind of other A, I don't know. I thought, let's think about fog from a design standpoint and not just stick a fogger out there because it's the thing to do. So there's a couple different ways that I could see us using fog for Halloween. One, of course, is low-lying fog. That's a very popular effect all the time. And then the other is fog just for the sake of masking things. And I'm going to bring fog back when we talk about one other element later too. We're going to combine some elements because that's where real magic happens in design.
Sure.
But one of the most powerful things about Halloween design, I think, is the human imagination. It isn't necessarily what they see that's powerful. It's what they don't see. Like, why is everybody afraid of the dark? Because we don't see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that there's anything there. It's that we don't know what is there. So fog can be one of these masking elements that can just inhibit visibility a little bit. Now, if you're doing a haunted house, here comes the safety speech. You have to be careful, of course, about, egress, people's ability to get out in a hurry if they need to, that sort of thing. But anyway, in a design characteristic, fog can be good because it can help hide things just a little bit, just,
Mm-hmm.
Cloud vision, just enough that the imagination is trying to fill in the blanks. And I think the human mind is always going to come up with something worse than what we could build, which is good. That's what we're going for, right?
Trying to trick your mind.
Well, just let your mind,
Yeah.
everybody's mind by default goes to almost their own worst fears.
Mm-hmm.
You could make something that's sort of, blanket, but if you allow people to kind of fill in the blanks, if they're predisposed to being scared anyway, they're already going to go to something that scares them, right? So, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
There's a psychology to it, certainly.
So the next design element, I would call. Oh, let's talk about low-lying fog.
Yeah, I want. Let's before we jump out of fog, you talk about the low-lying fog, and then before we leave that, talk about the difficulties or the differences between having a fogger indoors compared to using it outdoors, and what kind of things a person should be thinking about from one aspect to the other.
Well, real quick, let me just share a picture, and let's see if this pops up for you.
There it is.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. Oh, I got
This
it.
is a
Hang on a second.
screenshot
I
from
got to
a
get
video.
out of this
That
thing.
is the back of Katie's head. This is a screenshot from a video that Katie did on the On Tour Ice. As far as low-lying foggers go that are within the DJ price category, this is probably my new favorite. It's very well built. It still uses dry ice, which is a very effective way to create a low-lying fog effect, very thick and full. In fact, here in the picture, you can see it comes with a hose, and the hose is elevated, so you can see the fog falling.
Yeah.
And it's doing a very good job of falling and staying down. It also has DMX on board and a few other cool features. So that's why this has become kind of my new favorite. Now, cons of this, of course, are it uses dry ice, and so it's has a limited runtime.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to run this thing continuously, which means for a haunt, you're going to be reloading it a lot. The other side of the coin, though, is if you want to run something with that type of effect and you want to have that kind of result, really thick, full, low-lying fog, you're going to have to get something very expensive, like the LSG or the DNG. So, and we're talking something between $4,000 and $7,000.
Oh,
so,
my goodness. Yeah.
you buy a lot of dry ice for that. Anyway, difficulties of using foggers outside. One of the real key things, particularly if you live where I do, where it's been in the 40s now already, certainly we've had snow on Halloween, is that we're taking these machines outside and they have heater cores in them, and we're bringing them to a very cold environment. So the fluid reservoir can get very cold. That fog fluid could actually get below freezing. It won't freeze until you get to about minus 25 Fahrenheit. That's when fog fluid starts to turn into kind of like a slurpy slush.
Okay.
So I'm told. Sam from our office has tested that, and I'm just going to take his word for it because I got better things to do than go outside and check to see if my fog is frozen. But anyway, so you could have this fluid that is literally below freezing in the reservoir getting pumped into this very hot heater, and we could do some damage there. So that's one thing about taking foggers outside. Number two, which this is probably as good a time as any to bring this up, because it's sort of a blanket statement about every other fixture we're going to talk about here, is ingress protection, IP rating. And most fog machines aren't really rated to be used outside. Now, they're probably just fine as long as we're keeping components. There are circuit boards and things inside there. We don't want them to get wet, of course. So. Those would be a couple of things that would come to my mind with using fog outside. Sure.
And then obviously the moisture I was thinking about, but I didn't even think about that temperature extreme as it's getting down to many times we're trick-or-treating when it's 20 degrees outside, and that's definitely cold.
You're shocking the system a little bit there, or a lot, it's expecting something room temperature and you're sending something to it that's 50 degrees colder. So that's a possibility to cause some damage to the unit.
Interesting. Good thought. I hadn't come to that one. Okay,
my next effect, I guess I would say, is video. And I said I would tie fog into this. So you're saying, what in the world does fog have to do with this? All right, we'll just check this out. So picture like a PVC pipe or something coming from your fogger with holes drilled in it so that fog can come out along a linear plane. And now we have kind of a curtain of fog that we can project video on. So we could project video images of ghosts and things. Of course, they'll show up on the fog. And this allows people to actually walk through these images and that sort of thing. So there's some cool things you can do there with a projector. Another place that I see video elements used a lot is LCD screens. Of course, they've gotten very flat now and very small. And so you can mount them behind props or in window panes and create whatever effect you want. Video is the most dynamic of all effects.
Oh, and I've seen some things where people have done windows in their house like that with a video, and it's kind of creepy. When it's done right, it's like, oh
yeah. You could frost a window lightly, with that temporary window frost, and then project an image onto that. You wouldn't see the projector because it could be down projecting up, and so it looks like ghosts on the window, that sort of thing. There's all kinds of things you can do. Video mapping outdoors. Again, video, we could do an entire series, not just a show. We could do an entire series on video.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, let's move on to another effect, and I'm going to pop up another. Let me see what I want to do here. Did I miss one? I might have. Oh, you know what? I know what I did. It's always that moment when you say, "Oh, I know what I did." I was just going to go right to the site here, so let's do that. Let's.
There we are. Good.
Okay,
Gobos. Nice.
And this, of course, is on our site. We have a few different gobo packs. As you can see, we make them for every fixture. You can just put in what you have if it's not on the list, and we can make them for that. But here are some, kind of popular Halloweeny gobo. You could see some that are sort of, like this, like Friendly Little Pumpkin or a spider web. But then we see some other ones like the, some clouds or some bats. Things that we could project again onto fog, onto props, just to give things a bit more depth. It depends on if we're going for like the friendly little jack-o'-lantern or if we're going for something that's going to like scare the, bodily fluids out of somebody. So, again, that's the beauty of design. I have a couple other examples. Go ahead and ask your question.
So with gobos, I know there's a variety of different size gobos, different size projectors, and different things. What would be if a person were going to say, okay, I've only got X number of feet of distance from where I could shoot a gobo to where it would hit, say, a garage door. What would be absolute minimum with the shortest throw gobo to a I don't want to say maximum because there's some, but I mean, you've got to have so much space to make a gobo function and have it big enough, on a garage door as an example.
Well, the two key things here are going to be focal length and then the optics that are installed, the lens angle, for example. So with a fairly wide angle lens, maybe a 50, you're going to get a bit wider effect. We can go even up to like a 90, but images tend to fisheye and that sort of thing at that point. So if you're trying to focus something like a jack-o'-lantern, that's probably a bad idea. If the image is a bit more kind of like what I'm going to show you in a second, maybe it's not such a big deal. But just sort of to be aware of that the bigger your lens, degree, the bigger the image is going to be after a short distance. And if you're trying to focus a gobo 6 feet away, that might be tough, depending on the focal length of the fixture. So
sure, okay.
But it really depends on the fixture. There's a lot of options out there, so too many to even begin to break it down. So let's just say you need more than 6 feet. So again, it depends on what you're trying to do here, right? If you're building a large outdoor, haunted attraction or a haunted cornfield or, whatever, then you've got one set of options. If you're just doing something fun in the garage, then you're probably doing something different. So, it depends.
20 minutes
let me
in.
just share a couple other quick images for you. I want to do this. There we go. All right. So here we see a gobo of a tree, and we can see that this is creating like the shadow of a tree.
Sure.
So the light's going to pass and leave a shadow of a tree, which is really good if you want to create some kind of a background or something that looks like there's trees that are casting shadows. And so you can give something a bit of a bit more of that eerie, spooky look, particularly if you take these things and kind of soft focus them, blur them just a little bit. Again, make the brain work a little bit. That adds to the fear factor. And this you could use with any, this is a steel gobo. You can use it with basically any fixture. You could even put it in moving lights and that sort of thing. And then here's what we could do with something like a glass or a cooling. So you can see now we've got a lot more dynamic effect here. Again, depending on what you're trying to design, but all kinds of fun options. If you just go to our site and type in trees, I bet you come up with a lot of options. In fact, you know what? Let's do it. Okay, sharing has stopped because the window is closed. Let's try this one. Let's go to our site. Let's type in trees. You can see right there, bang,
Oh, that's kind of cool. That one with the two trees there.
Yeah, and again, options, a bit more realistic. There's some kind of a spooky, a couple of cranky looking trees look like they're, whatever. And for some reason, we have a snow cannon in there. I'm not sure what that has to do with trees.
Well,
but, yeah.
that would be fun too for Halloween.
Our site is, oh yeah, full of fun surprises. So number 3, 4, we're on to 4 now. Yeah, these are in no particular order.
No.
Wash lighting, just because, we have to light things at some point, right? And by, changing the color of things, we can kind of change how they feel. Deep blues and purples and greens are going to make a room feel cooler and colder. Yellows and oranges if you want something to feel a bit, warmer, that sort of thing, obviously. But just to, help highlight what we do want people to see. And there's real magic in this too, by the way, because by giving people things that they can see, we can hide things we don't want them to see. The eye only sees light, so it makes it harder to see things in the dark if there are things that are light. Your eye has to be able to try to look past the light into the dark. A good example: driving on a road and you've got headlights coming at you. It's very difficult to see what else is on the road.
Certainly.
So, we can do that intentionally, not on the road, of course, but. Let's see. So
let's just before we jump there, Ben. Before we jump, so if we're wanting to do something with color, are there some colors that we could use? You mentioned, of course, the cooler colors, warmer colors, but are there some colors that would be more difficult for the eye to pick up the little contrast and nuances of what you're doing, but yet still would give you a kind of that eerie, glowish light?
Well, the first thing I would default to, because I'm not a lighting designer per se, I'm more of a physics kind of guy. I would say that we have, with LED, we're using additive light. We're adding red, green, blue, perhaps amber white, that sort of thing. And that's how we're making our spectral content. And the things that we're shining the light on have pigments in them or dyes, and that's absorbing light and reflecting what's left back to the eye. And so I think it would depend on what we're projecting onto, because we have to think about what those pigments and dyes are and what we're projecting. And that would kind of determine the spectral content of the color we're going to create. One thing I can tell you, though, if you want to do something just to really freak people out, is by alternating between red and blue light, you can create a real sense of movement in a room. And it's basically because of the Doppler shift. And our brain perceives that as a wall moving towards or away from us if the light is red or blue, which, sidebar, just for fun, is also how we have discovered some planets, is we actually just look at the blue-red wobble of a star because of the gravitational pull, pulling that planet to and away. And our brain is hip to this, and it knows this. And so when it sees light alternating between blue and red, it believes the object is moving towards or away from it. So, the Doppler shift with lighting could be maybe just a random nugget for today. I don't know where that came from, but
that's still little things, little pieces like that. Some people you can utilize that to create a disorienting effect to some extent, which is part of that whole scary atmosphere you're trying to build.
Absolutely. And there's places you could do it and it wouldn't even seem that weird. I've seen like, haunted clown rooms and that sort of thing, which a lot of people don't like clowns anyway, I guess. So, and so if you had that, bright reds and blues would play into the clown theme, and yet at the same time would make it very disorienting in the rooms. That could be fun. So here's my token wash light. I picked this one because it is IP rated.
Sure.
So you can put this one outside and we don't have to worry about moisture like we talked about earlier. It has an IP, I believe, 65 rating on this fixture. So just a fun little. There we go. And I started with fog and I'm gonna end with fog. I've got one more category, and then I'm gonna come back to fog a little bit to talk about sort of a bonus category. But my last one would be another staple of Halloween, and that's UV. Ultraviolet light seems to be kind of an overwhelming standard. Let me just pop up an example for you of something that was done in UV, and this is courtesy of my friends at Roscoe. So here we can see a design that was created in UV, and if we turn the light off, basically that's going to disappear.
Sure.
So that's a pretty cool thing, and that's what I really like about UV is the human eye doesn't really see it. Now, if you're thinking yes, it does, just wait because I've got something for you. So we can create design elements and things that are not visible under white light, but we can make them visible under ultraviolet light. And this gives us a lot of possibility to create hidden things and eerie things and that sort of, whatever. So kind of like this fun thing here I picked. Now, 2 UV lights we're going to look at here. One is, we'll just call it more of a purple light.
Okay.
It does have a strong UV component in it. I picked this one because it is UV. It's the ADJ UV72 IP. So, it's got that IP rating for outdoor use. It is a very strong ultraviolet light, but it does have a lot of visible light. So the people that are saying, well, but you can see UV light, it looks purplish. Well, yes and no. I mean, technically, no, you can't, but these lights are just not that precise.
Okay.
So, it comes down to a cost thing. And, for a low cost fixture, something that's a few $100s, yeah, you're going to get a lot of visible light. Now, what you can do actually is Roscoe has dichroic UV filters that you could get. We can sell you those, and you can put on this light, and it will filter out the visible light elements. So you'll get largely invisible UV light, which again is nice because then you only see what you're trying to fluoresce with the UV light. Or, again, I guess it's today's Roscoe's day, but you know what?
Yeah.
We're talking lighting design, a company that's been doing theater lighting design for 100 and some years. They're probably going to lead the pack.
Yeah.
This little dude here, I think, is like $1,200.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's very small, but this is Roscoe's Miro Cube, but it does have that filter in front. So the UV output of this light is stunning. And again, you're probably thinking, well, for $1,200, it better be. Well, it is. And that's why they can charge $1,200 for it. Now, I doubt that too many of our viewers are going to run out and grab these things, but obviously theaters are buying these things all the time because they work exceptionally well and they have a very good invisible UV light component to it.
So a throw on something like that, what would you expect for coverage with the $1,200 light?
Well, there's different ways you can go about it. You can go wider or you can go longer. We've used those. Wildfire used to be one of the real category leaders.
Yeah.
And these things were very much aimed at wildfire and their iron arc lamps. We've had throws on those Miro cubes like 60 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's worth $1,200. That thing just rocks. And it's one of those things where it's sort of like when you look at the thing, and you look at it next to a $400 light, you say, this is crazy. I wouldn't pay $1,200 for this. Probably much in the same way that you might say, I got a $30,000 Chevy next to a $200,000 Lamborghini. I would never pay $200,000 for a Lamborghini. Truth be told, I don't even know if you can get a Lamborghini for $200,000. I don't go shopping for Lamborghinis. But, I don't know what they cost. That's the point. But anyway, I guess here's what I'm saying is if you're a guy who drives Lamborghinis, you're not driving the Chevy.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of theme park lighting and theater lighting, $1,200 is nothing. It's chump change, So they're not going to mess around with the $400 light because they're more concerned about the effect.
Sure.
Again, I just wanted to kind of point out the difference.
Yeah, no, that's really neat. I didn't realize that little fixture existed, but I've seen the wildfire you're referring to.
Oh, these things are phenomenal. They're little and they've got, DMX on board and PowerCon connection and they're just awesome. But we can make the poor man's version. That would be me, the poor man. But we can just get those dichroic UV filters. So let's just say, we spent $300 for a low cost UV fixture and we spent $50 on a UV filter. We're still way south of $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it just depends on what's important to you. You know, give you the options.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Good information about the UV side of things.
Yeah, just fun stuff. And there, by the way, Roscoe has some really good articles. I think I'm pretty sure they still do If not, I'm sure I could get them to dig them up in the archives. But again, they're experts at theater lighting and that sort of thing. And so they've had some fascinating articles on their site from time to time about UV. I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't been there looking for them in a long time, but you can go pop by and check them out.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I wanted to say, the last category I wanted to add is control. And I really just wanted to talk about, for years and years, we used to exhibit at a large national haunted attraction show. And, a lot of people don't experience exhibit halls after they close, but you and I do. And, they shut down the lighting, and there's just enough lighting basically to get out, that sort of thing. And so you have all these props, some of them the size of rooms. One of my favorite props ever was a full-size front of a locomotive on a pneumatic ram. And as you walked by, the pneumatic ram slams this locomotive facade at you with a real train horn and lights blaring. And you think for a moment you're about to be hit by a train. Even though you were in an exhibit hall and there's no trains in the exhibit hall, it's pretty convincing. You're like, holy crap, there's a train here.
Wow.
All kinds of other things, giant monsters. But my favorite effect is so simple. It's just compressed air and a proximity sensor. So you walk within a certain proximity of something, and it triggers the release of a jet of compressed air, which is both loud, which is startling, and you feel it hit you. So something touches you, the air touches you. And I thought about all these different things that were carefully thought out, designed to startle and scare. And these machines stay running all night long in the exhibit hall because they're on pneumatics and that sort of thing. And it's just easier to leave them all run. And I thought about the poor night security guard patrolling this hall. Man, that guy or gal, I don't know. I don't know how they made it through 2 nights, I mean, everywhere you turn around, there's something designed to startle you.
To jump out at you.
Picture monsters also on pneumatic rams. So, you get within a proximity and all of a sudden this thing jumps out at you, and you're like, oh boy, look at that. There's a thing that just jumped out at me and it looks creepy. And of course the exhibit hall is dark at night, which makes it even better. I thought this is like the ultimate haunted house. I always wanted to get there before the change of the guard in the morning, just to see how neurotic that security guard looked. I mean, like, were they really like ready to just crack, Anyway.
Funny.
I also wondered if any of them were actually carrying a sidearm. I wondered how many props had bullet holes in them, in the morning.
Oh,
so,
a train.
In this category, Chevy has a device called the WMS, which is, cleverly enough, the wireless motion sensor, and it works with their foggers and their funfetti shot and a few other things. Anyway, so now you have this possibility where you could have a wireless motion sensor trigger your fog machine and shoot a blast of fog at somebody as they just happen to walk within firing range.
Mm-hmm. So you could have it set up with maybe even like 2 foggers so that they walk up on, come walking down the path, and all of a sudden the fog kicks in and starts rolling across the ground type of thing. And you could could you set it up to trigger some lights also, or?
This is only for foggers, but there are all kinds of things we could do once we get into DMX. You can get DMX controllers that have logic inputs, call them GPIs, general purpose inputs. And those could go to a variety of sensors, things that could be, borrowed from home security, that sort of thing. Read switches. At that point, and I'll tell you what, one of the things that really fascinated me about doing this haunted attraction show is the people that would come to our booth, look at the manufactured products we have, strobe lights, which I omitted from the list this year because they are too passe, but strobe lights or whatever it is. They would look at this fixture and they would want to take it apart in the booth because they weren't going to use it as it came. They wanted to, they really wanted to hot rod this thing somehow. And so, once you get that deep into it, it's a year-round project. By the way, that show is in March. People are ordering their stuff for Halloween. So,
wow. Yeah. I knew about some of the other shows that you guys have hit over the years, but I don't think I've ever heard you talk about that one.
Well, it hasn't really been our audience till tonight.
Yeah.
We serve a lot of different vertical markets. I think we've covered some of that on the show, and this is what I love, by the way, John. I think that probably a lot of DJs that watch this show think that we only sell to DJs. And the reality is, DJs are actually a minority amount of our business. They're a small fraction of our business. But the reason that I love that they think that they're the only customers we have is that tells me we're doing a good job of taking care of them. We're not saying, well, you're not as important as our, this customer or that customer. And certainly, I hope we never do. I think every customer is very important. It isn't a magnitude of dollars or anything like that. I think you have to, if you're going to serve a market, you have to serve it, and so I love the fact that I think that occurs in the other markets we serve too. They have no idea that we sell to DJs.
Sure. Yeah.
It would blow their mind. Like, why do you sell to DJs when you do this? Well, that's none of their business, So I love that we serve all these different vertical markets, and that we do it with a lot of passion and love, so that every market feels like they're our only market.
Yeah. I have learned some things tonight.
Well, that's the point of the show.
It is. And then sometimes I learn a lot. Sometimes I learn that I need someone to deliver me ice cream. But there's always.
That hasn't happened lately.
I know. I'm so disappointed. I mean, I thought we were starting something.
I was hoping. No, you know what? She after that show, she got like her own fan club, and she's too big time.
Yeah,
for me.
yeah. Well,
so, yep. She's not going to slum it with me anymore. So.
Life's tough in the northern Minnesota sounds. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You were saying you wanted to wrap up with fog. Was it the triggering? Okay. I wanted to make sure that was the part
because the Chevet trigger is specifically for fog.
For the fogger, okay.
So, yeah, that's the big wrap up with fog.
Excellent.
Here's another wrap for fog. A bonus content. All fog is not created equal. So we love our fog fluid because we tried to choose a chemical composition that was more friendly to human beings, avoiding, triethylene and diethylene glycol and that sort of thing. So if you just happen to be looking for fog fluid that's, not horrible for you, ours was somewhat self-servingly engineered because we spend hours in booths filled with fog. So we wanted to have something that's a little less obnoxious for ourselves. But anyway, so check out the NLFX line of fog fluids, which are manufactured here in the U.S.
And that's why I wanted to make sure you were kind of done with the fog area before. Not all fog fluid is created the same to get the same results.
No, and and then there's a variety of variations there. Some are due to cost, some are due to quality. That's just to say that not all fog fluids are equal, but also, as you just said, effect is very different. So we have only 3. Now, there are lots more. There are some companies that are really into fog, and they make lots of different varieties. And we kind of picked the 3 top ones. We have our platinum fog, which is really a good, even spreading, hazy fog. It thins out in the air and is good for, light beams and that sort of thing. Great for phasers, which are combination fog or hazer units. Then we have our murky lagoon, which is when you really need that thick fog. You want to see big billowing, it's more about seeing the fog than seeing the effect the fog makes. Right. And then on the opposite end of that spectrum, sort of these bracket the platinum in the middle is our Arctic mist, which is designed for low-lying foggers, those that use regular fog fluid and ice or a chiller, because it dissipates really fast. So as the fog begins to warm and rise, it should disappear. So you don't see the fog rising into the air. You only see the fog when it's near on the ground. As a bonus, it turns out it works really, really well for vertical foggers, because that's another place where you want to see the plume of the fog, but then you don't want to see a bunch of fog in the room. You just want to see the plume of fog, and so it needs to disappear. So our Arctic mist works great in vertical foggers. Now, a sidebar. Somebody left a negative review on our site about the Arctic mist because they don't understand at all how foggers work, obviously. And I really was a little frustrated when I read the review, because I thought, that's not at all fair. They put this in a regular fog machine and were disappointed that it didn't drop down to the ground. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works, right? The reason that low-lying fog stays low is temperature. Low-lying fog fluid, like I said, the point of that is just to disappear quickly so that as it warms and begins to rise, it disappears. So you have to use a machine that cools it, whether it has a built-in chiller unit or you put ice in the machine, like the Antari ice machine. That's how it stays low. So to whomever left the review, I hope you've understood physics better now.
Just a little bit better
because your search for a low-lying fog fluid has probably been long and frustrating at this point. And instead of leaving a negative review, I really wish you would have just called and said, how come this isn't working? Because we just said, that's not how physics works.
No, it works.
We would have been glad to help you.
Ben, if people are watching the show and they want to get, they want to get some new fog juice that's going to work for them or any of that, what's the best way for them to be able to get themselves set up for the Halloween season coming up?
Just pop over to our site, like we were looking at there, nlfxpro.com. Orders over $35 get free freight, which is ridiculous because I think a gallon of fog fluid is $25. I think we make about $5 on it. So 2 gallons to get you free freight. 2 gallons costs us about $30 to ship, and we only make $10 on it. So we're literally paying you $20 to take it.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to be a pal, number one, don't leave a negative review. Number two, order more stuff. But if not, hey, that's the way it is. Obviously we're trying to be competitive on the internet, and sometimes you just take it on the chin. So, there you go. Yeah. Now, if you really want to be a pal, at least buy a case. It's easier to ship. So you can at least take a case off the shelf and put a label on it. But anyway, just pop over to nlfxpro.com or if you're not sure which fog is right for you, please give us a call. Send us an email. We've got instant chat on our site. Facebook us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Instant chat.
Pigeon.
Excellent.
Use the force.
Yes, the force. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Thank you guys for being with us tonight with our little Halloween show here, talking about some of the gear and such. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. Brian is getting himself ready to roll. We're going to be talking about his weekend and his sound system for the room. Ben, this is probably a topic that you'd really like to stick with us on tonight.
I saw the title, and speaking of, I'm sorry, attention deficit moment.
Yeah.
What in the world is with that graphic, Jimmy? Where I couldn't tell if I looked like if Robin, went like to the dark side, or from Batman and Robin, or like John Randall from the Minnesota Vikings. Remember him?
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah. It's like, gosh,
I actually have a John Randall jersey in my closet. I almost put it on, but I thought, well, nobody would understand the reference.
That's it. Yeah, he did it for games. He would paint himself up like that with the big
that's what it looked like.
Mask like that. Yeah,
it's what it looked like.
That's exactly.
So I saw the graphic for the show tonight, and I thought, oh, Jimmy, that's just, I love. I love you, John. I think you're a great guy. I think you've done a lot for the industry. I love the viewers that we have, the questions, the support, the positive comments, all those things I love. But I have to admit, one of the things I really look forward to on Tuesday is just seeing what graphic Jimmy will make. It's like, what now? What crazy thing. And the best part, remember that one where we did the DMX one and he put like mirrored sunglasses on me and a leather jacket?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe look like something out of like, I don't know.
Anyway, he's had some good ones there.
People thought I really wore that. People go, where'd you get the sunglasses? I'm like, Photoshop. And Jimmy's really good at Photoshop. And if you guys want to see some of those thumbnails, go out to DJNTV.com and click on shows down to Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe, and it pops up most of the thumbnails, and you can see some of Jimmy's handiwork in there. So that's always a challenge for me, is I think, how do I rise to the level of expectation that Jimmy has set forth with the graphic? Like I've got, for the next 40 minutes, I've got to try to be as good as that graphic, and I never am, but anyway, so yes, I did see the topic. I think you and Brian will do a great job. I think Brian and I come at things from a very different standpoint. I think that's a good balance. I felt bad that I wasn't feeling better last week, and couldn't contribute more to the show, because I think he was onto some things there. But no, I don't want to stick around. I think I'm going to watch you guys, and
We'll have some fun with it.
Good to hear a lot of rounded opinions.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with it. So once again, thank you guys for being with us. We'll be back in about 10 minutes with our second show tonight. Good night, everybody.